Hi guys, I'm Leanne. We're back in the academy today for our short hair and fading course, and I'm alongside our Blue Tit staff from all over our London salons. So my look for today is I'm going to be predominantly working scissor over comb. So we're going to do a scissor over comb fade. I want to avoid using clippers, and I'm going to be working with different size combs, working something that is much shorter and gradually becoming longer, and then adding a lot more texture throughout the top. So it's a very kind of repetitive cut, working in different panels with my scissor over comb, but it will just give me a lot more stronger balance over my control on my shape. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start with Aaron's hair, and I just wanted to explain that I'm going to be using 3 different combs when cutting. 2 are from Wise Park brand, and the other one is a Beauty comb. So I'm going to use for predominantly the larger Wise Park comb, so it has like a thicker area to just keep a little bit more length, and then working into something that's a little bit smaller, and it's actually a little bit more kind of bendable, that will work in with the head shape, and then into my Beauty comb, which I'm going to be using for more of my tapered area, which is really kind of bendy, that will allow me to get into any of those tighter areas, especially around kind of like the shape of the neck and any areas that it starts to kind of dip down. Okay, so when I'm working any sort of scissor over comb, you've got to think about what is important is obviously working with like the head shape. Now the head shape starts to curve at this point here. So realistically, without making the head shape look narrow on a length that is as short as what we're working with, we need to start building out a little bit of width when the head starts to round. So I'm keeping my comb in as tight as possible throughout this kind of like lower hairline. And as I start working up the head, the lower part of the comb stays against the head, but the tips of the comb start coming out. So I still maintain a little bit of length and a bit of weight as towards the roundness of the head. And what I would always suggest doing is working in columns rather than stop, start into different areas. So you get a continuously like even balance throughout. So I'm starting on like the flatter part of the head, which is above the ear. And then I'm going to start coming through to the front and then all the way through to the center of this back area. Okay, so as I'm starting to come round the corner of behind the ear, the hair's starting to grow in different directions. Now down here, the hair is growing more sideways, and then up here, it's starting to kind of drop down. So whenever you're working scissor over comb, you want to go against the way that the hair's growing. So working in at a slightly diagonal section, and as I'm starting to work up towards the top of the head, I'm bringing my comb up more flatter and more angled, more horizontally throughout this area. So diagonal into a slightly bit more horizontal into fully horizontal throughout this area. And that may change as I work around the hairline and from side to side, because wherever the hair grows to, you're going to work against. Okay, so now I'm starting to work around this back area. The previous haircut, Aaron actually had the same length clippers all over. So obviously we know that the head shape sits more curved, and where the weight and the length sits, that is grown out evenly. Obviously the head shape isn't obviously always even. It becomes more wider throughout the occipital bone. It tends to be a little bit more flatter around the crown area. Now what we want to do is try to make the hair look like it has a bit more kind of bulk in certain areas and control a little bit more weight. So realistically, I have to keep all of this length here the same as what it is, and work out something that sits in much slimmer all the way up to just the lower part of the crown area, and all of this be maintained for the longer length. Then in theory, that's going to start making it look a little bit more kind of broader in this area than through here. Whereas at the moment, throughout this kind of bottom area, more length and more weight kind of bolts out through here, and it actually makes this part look flatter. So trying to make more volume through here, slimmer through here. So by working my scissor over comb up above the roundness of the head, but making sure that I start bringing my comb out on a slight angle away from the head shape, so we maintain this length through here and just working in nice and tight. On to comb number 2. So yeah, I'm gonna go again, wires part, slightly more of a looser comb so I can get into the smaller areas. And it's actually smaller, it's a bit more narrower compared to the other one. It allows me to get into those tighter areas. Now, being that we're doing a scissor over comb fade as such, we're not going down to skin, but I'm gonna start now and go up like from the bottom part of the hairline and obviously like the sideburns, but I'm just not gonna go up as high as I originally have. So where I built up the corners basically on the roundness of the head, this I don't need to keep. That's basically, I'm maintaining that from my other comb. I'm gonna start working lower. So I start flicking my comb out lower down just to maintain that I get that really nice little blend. But I'm just gonna mirror exactly the same as what I've done. As I'm getting to like the mastoid process area, which is around here, this is when, not always, but majority of the time, it's a little bit higher and a little bit more raised around this area. And this part is the part that kind of drops in. So sometimes it's a lot more obvious than what it is on Aaron's. But what you might want to do is turn the head to the side and it makes it flatter. And it allows you to get into those areas with a little bit more control. Whereas when the head looks straighter, it's a little bit more raised there and it dips in. So it is slightly harder just to get your kind of scissor over comb as clean cut as it is when you turn your client's head to the side. And this is where it's important that the comb is a little bit more kind of bendy, that I can kind of push in and it will kind of curve into certain areas so I can get as tight as I basically want it to go, or as tight as this comb would allow me to go before I move on to my smaller comb. Okay, so these sort of areas all the way down here, you can actually start to see that they kind of twirl in different directions. So I need to make sure that I'm working against the way that the hair is growing. But at times, there might be points that you start working downwards rather than up, just to get rid of those little kind of tasseled areas. So really look at the growth patterns at this point. Okay, so now I'm going on to then my final comb, which is the Blue brand. This one is like super bendy, but you can actually get it into those really kind of really small, delicate areas. And all of this is now is just working into that low taper part of my fade. And then I am going to go in with a little bit of clipper work, but just the mini trimmers, just to work that in, and just a little bit flatter in certain areas. Now, I don't want the back hairline to be squared off or anything, so I'm not going to be putting any sharp angles. I'm just going to do a little bit of clipper over comb just to work in a little bit flatter, and then just remove all the like tassely, fluffy little areas. And then through the top, originally, I was going to actually take some of this length off, but I actually quite like the length with the fade. But there's so much weight in it that I want to soften it through. So I am actually going to do kind of like a scissor over comb effect, but just with point cutting, and take that weight out so we just get a little bit more looseness throughout this top area. And last part is just tidying up really small detailed areas just with the clippers. Just get in a little bit of clipper over comb. I don't want to put a heavy line in any area. Last step, what I want to do, like I said, is want to remove weight from the top. All I want to do is come in more of like a scissor over comb technique and just snip and just take a few bits of weight out just on the very edges, just so you get a bit more of a tasseled kind of area through the top. If your comb gets stuck in the hair, come back to the beginning and then start approaching it from where you left it off. And obviously then you can go through this as much as you find necessary. We don't want to start taking too much weight out of this area. It's more so through this top. But you can take out just a really small amount in certain placements, more around this area. But it's realistically, you're going to be focusing more on the very top part of the head. Okay, so now we're just going to go in on wet hair using next day cream. So I'm using 2 pumps and then put in all the way through the hair, so massage it through. But you can already start to see that the shape has been built up, more width here and just more tasseled. So going in with the wax and then just putting a pea-size amount through and just massaging it right into like the scalp area, same as what I've done with the next day cream. And I actually think like with Aaron's hairline, he's got quite like a strong kind of like cow's lick, and it does drop down ever so slightly in the center, but just having that little bit more kind of looseness towards the top just sits everything really nice in balance and just shows off that nice movement throughout. So I hope you like it, guys. Okay, so little recap on Aaron's hair. The previous haircut was clippers all over, so the same length from the top to the sides. And I decided to go with a scissor over comb fade rather than using clippers, because I feel like you can get a lot more control in balance with the head shape. And to be honest, I just feel like you just get a little bit of a softer, delicate effect. I don't want to go in like with a zero or anything like that. We just want to get a nice like clean cut, shorter on the edges, slightly longer towards the top, and then keeping this length that was previously there and just using a scissor over comb technique in with a point cut.